Hey everybody, welcome to another video. This is an extreme sharpening video, and we're going to be dealing with the Pitmaster grill tool by Myron Mixon. So if you don't know what that is, check out this crazy knife. It's basically a chef's knife with a barbecue meat turner hook on the very end of it, and there's the meat turner. There's that little hook, and there's a bottle opener kind of right in the middle of the blade. Look how wild that is. This was given to me by a friend here a few days ago, and they asked me if I could remove the tip. And although I tried to convince them not to, after a day or so, they decided definitively they did not want to use it as a barbecue utensil. And I kind of don't blame them. It's sort of weird. And I think on their website they sell it for like 25 bucks. But it really isn't a very good chef's knife, and it's not a very good barbecue tool. And so, you know, it's sort of somewhere in the middle. Maybe you can hang it on your wall as a collector's piece. But here's what we're going to do. We need to do a few things to this particular knife in order to get it sharp and usable like a chef's tool. And the first thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and shape it. So we remove the hook, and we're going to go ahead and bring this belly down a little bit, curve the knife up, so that we can get a good working tip, not only on the belly but on the very edge of this knife. And the problem with the design of this knife is about the last 3 inches of the chef's knife. It's incredibly thick, so the bottom is as thick as the spine. So check this out. This is the blade itself. So this knife is blade up currently, and I want you to see this is the tip. So look how thick that blade is, right at the very tip. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to thin it. Alright, so this Cajun's a pretty resourceful guy, and I'm going to use what I got on hand. So I went ahead and mounted this thing to my stainless table outside and created a little workbench. And we're just going to grind this thing down, basically a little bit at a time. And so I don't want to, you know, my challenge here is to grind the front side and the back side, or the left side and the right side, evenly, so that I can get a good edge on it whenever I put my bevel on it. And so that's really right now the number one challenge. And after doing that, I realize now I've got kind of a separate problem. I'm going to have to figure out what to do with those scratch marks right there on the tip. And so I didn't think about that earlier. And there we go. So I guess we'll have to figure that out when the time comes. But that's what it's going to look like. And I've smoothed the top off. I've got the blade pretty much thinned out. The belly and the tip are about the same thickness as the rest of the blade. And it's time to sharpen. All right. So what we're going to do is just to create a really rock solid edge, I'm going to thin this down. So I've got this down to about 17 degrees right now. For this surgery, I am using a diamond plate 140 grit, and I don't want a burr. I want to take it just before a burr, and so I'm only going to do probably, you know, 1 pass, 2 passes maximum on each side, and at this point I'm done. And so I'm really excited because I get to use, hands down, my favorite stones on the planet right now, and that's the Naniwa Chosera line. And this right here, this is the I'm going to start with the 800. I don't need the 4. I don't need the 6. That 800 is still a decent workhorse that allows me to remove the appropriate amount of metal. But I'm fairly thin, and so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and create a micro bevel. I'm going to bring it up to about 21 degrees, as you can see there, and this should give me a nice, sharp, consistent edge throughout the entire knife. And so, starting with the 800, which is considered part of their course line, and then we're going to go ahead and move up. And I'm going to take this to about 5K, the 5K Chosera, and because I know what it's going to be used for. This is a protein knife, beef, chicken, boneless, things like that. And so we're going to get this thing razor sharp without getting ridiculous. I mean, obviously we can go to 10K, but I don't find it to be. I don't think it's necessary. And so now we're going to go ahead and switch to the 1K. This is the 1000 grit Chosera, and at this point we're just doing pretty standard strokes. These are sweeping strokes, edge leading, and I'm doing roughly 16 passes per side, and I end up doing that probably about 4 times. So obviously I'm not going to go through each one of them with you, but you can get the idea. If you've never used a Chosera, then man, it's probably one of the lines of stones that I highly recommend. And what's kind of cool right now is Genda Industries. I don't know how much longer this is going to last. All right, let's say it's July 2018. Genda Industries has them cheaper than any other place. So if you want to try the Naniwa Choseras, or if you want to look at the options, if you want to look at the entire set, definitely visit Genda Industries. I'm going to put a link to their website at the bottom of this video in the description box below. Oh, and I completely forgot. We've got a discount code. So if you're a Two Guys in a Cooler subscriber, you can apply that discount code to your Genda order, and you're going to get a fat discount. All you got to do is subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell, give it a thumbs up. And if you go to Genda Industries, it applies to pretty much anything in their sharpening catalog. So that's really awesome for Genda Industries, and thank you, Genda Industries. So right now we're flipping through the stones. This is the 2K Chosera, and we're going to move on to the 3K here in 1 second, and before we finish up with the 5K. And so one of the things that I love about the Chosera is the feedback that you get. These are so totally different than the Shaptons. These are different than the aluminum oxides, different than the diamond plates or diamond stones. And for me, there's a very, I don't know, oneness that comes along with sharpening when you're using the Choseras. There's a ancient tradition that really sort of comes through, and it makes the experience incredibly enjoyable. And so most often, if you ask some of the old timers that have been sharpening for quite some time, they're going to tell you, Choseras are a feedback stone, and you're going to get a lot of really great feedback. So if you're new to sharpening, I would definitely highly recommend the Choseras as well. And so don't let anyone tell you that the reason your knife isn't getting sharp is because you're using a Chosera stone. That's just not true at all. Matter of fact, we're going to put out a video that has a sharpening from beginning to end. So we're going to take a very dull, badly worn knife, and we're going to start with the 400 Chosera, and we're going to take it all the way up to a finish, and this thing sharpens like a boss. So, all right, that was the 5K Chosera. The line goes up to 10, and let's go ahead and give it a little test, a little sharpening test. What do they call that? A little cut test, and see what happens. This thing's awesome. I don't believe this knife was ever this sharp, quite honestly. The blade was way too thick for the last 3 inches to actually be effective as a chef's knife. And so now that we've thinned it out and got this thing ripping sharp, I mean, it is sharp, we are ready to go ahead and clean it up. And so isn't that just strangely satisfying, just, cutting that paper? I don't know why. I'm about to cut my finger off, actually, if I don't be careful. All right, so here's what we're looking at. We need to remove this scratches, and I'm going to take a shot in the dark here and use a Sabitoru medium grit eraser. I've never used it for this particular application. I've always used it only for rust. And it's labeled as a rust remover, which is a great rust remover, but they don't really make any claims as to the ability for it to remove scratches. And so, you know what? It's already scratched up. I can't really scratch it more, I guess. This is the fine eraser. You can see what it does. I'm not putting a lot of stock in whether or not this is going to work out, but as you can see, this did an awesome job. The Sabitoru Rust Eraser actually doubles as a scratch remover depending on how deep the scratch is. So I use the fine and the medium grit. I'll also put a link in the description box below. But as you can see right here, we've got the tip thinned out quite dramatically, actually, and it's now able to hold a really nice 17 degree and 21 degree edge. And so that's sort of a new thing for this particular knife. We completely reshaped the belly, and we brought down the back. Notice how we thinned it out there on the top. You can see that. That is today's edition of Extreme Sharpening. And so, you know, I love putting it out there that I sharpen knives because people bring me the craziest knives and the wildest requests. Look at that mirror's edge. That's the camera looking back at you right there. So one of the coolest things about this is, you know, just pushing yourself to grow and to learn more and to get better at it. And so check this before and after. This is really cool. This is the before right there on the top, and there's the after. And guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and share. Check out the description for the Two Guys in a Cooler discount code Agenda Industries, and give it a thumbs up if you liked it. We'll see you in the kitchen.